What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another edition of the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. It's the Sports Web here live from Raymond James Stadium in collaboration with the JP Peterson Show as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers fall to 4-3, losing to the Baltimore Ravens 41-31. That's probably not the story of the night because that score isn't even as close as it would indicate.
The game was not that close.
Yeah, the big story of the night, the brutal, if you will, injury to Chris. I don't know if that's the word. It's just a traumatic injury to Chris Godwin there on the field. 43 seconds left. And we kind of talked about this on air. I know you asked it. A lot of people asked it, and a lot of fans are going to ask it tonight.
Yeah.
Do you feel like Chris Godwin should have been in that game at that point with basically the game being decided already?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't think he should have been in the game. I'm constantly amazed in the NFL how long they keep in garbage time, for whatever reason. Obviously, the rosters aren't as big as college teams, but college teams seem to get their important players out quicker. Todd Bowles said, look, we were down a couple of receivers anyway, so we needed to finish the game. He thought that the game was still in play with 43 seconds left, down a couple of scores. They had just gotten an onside kick, hopefully get another one, get a quick score. I mean, it's a long shot at
Yeah, and it's I don't know what's short there. You got it. You're good. You're good.
So, I mean, that was his answer.
Yeah,
that was his answer. The game was still in the balance. I mean, obviously, in hindsight, everybody's losing their mind. It's football. Guys get injured, but it's really hard with Mike Evans already down to see why Chris Godwin was in the game. When they started the series, I'm like, why is Baker still in there?
Right.
I mean, why is, I
Antoine Winfield Jr. comes to mind because he was in the game versus Washington, and that game was decided. And it's disappointing because Godwin leads the league with receptions at the end of the day. He's coming back
this week. Yeah.
2 years removed from, that big time knee injury.
Having a hell of a year. Look, I mean, let's not sugarcoat this. This is more than just losing a game tonight. You've lost what I consider a top 5 receiver in this league. And quite frankly, your most important player on offense. Mike is absolutely critical. There's no question about that. But obviously, I think the offense runs more through Chris Godwin just in terms of targets, key plays, first downs, red zone, all that stuff. I mean, you're splitting hairs here, but to have both of them out now next week, likely for the Atlanta game. And this is not hindsight. This is first guessing. We discussed this on the JP Peterson Show this morning. You got the Falcons coming up next week. This is an AFC team. When it comes down to tiebreakers, and obviously it will in this division, I think it'll be a one-game type situation. You have to beat the Atlanta Falcons. Mike has been battling this hamstring injury for weeks, and I don't think he should have played tonight. I don't. That's first guessing. I said that on the show this morning. Vita Vea has been bothered by a hamstring as well. I may have sat him out as well. I mean, this game it's a great Monday Night Football game. Overall record obviously is the first tiebreaker, but in this situation, next week's game was bigger. Yeah. It's a bigger game, and for all those reasons that I mentioned. So now you head into this game without, those two players. You could have rested Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin probably shouldn't have been in the game. I mean, that's just I know it's hindsight. I know it's hindsight's 2020. I get it, but there were decisions to be made. Those decisions were made. Decisions have consequences. And this is where the Bucs are at. Yeah. Simple as that. I mean, I don't want to rip Todd Bowles. I'm going to tell you, I walked out with him as I was walking through the locker room. I looked up and Todd was right in front of me, and I saw his face. And I mean, he is, he feels for his players. I mean, he's like a dad to all these guys.
He looked distraught.
He looked distraught. Yeah. Crestfallen. Yeah. I mean, we were talking about this morning. I mean, here's his team sits 4-2. Even with the loss tonight, with the win next week, you're looking at 5-3 going into a group of games that you thought was unwinnable, but suddenly look really winnable. I mean, the 49ers are under 500, right? They're 3-4 now.
Yes.
Suddenly that's a very winnable game. Kansas City is certainly not, scoring a lot of points of teams out. They're undefeated. I get it. Yeah. But all these games are very winnable now. And they've got obviously a very soft slate. If you can call anything soft in the NFL at the end of the year, 2 Carolinas, the Saints, Dallas team that will probably have packed it in long ago. So this season is not over, even though it seems like it right now. And even though it really seems like it right now. Yeah. And, if I'm being honest, losing those two guys, and we don't know it looked really bad for Chris Godwin. If it's a break, is there a chance, bones heal 6 to 8 weeks. Right. Is there a chance that he could come back late in the season and maybe be available for the playoffs? Yeah, maybe. And the way that guy works, I wouldn't put it past him. Yeah. So maybe there's a ray of hope there. Mike's got a hammy. I don't know how severe it was. He walked off in his own power, but it looked really bad when he went down. I mean, he grabbed it, and the tackle that happened was going to stretch the hamstring. That couldn't have been a worse situation, and he dropped the touchdown pass, which obviously in the flow of the game was very hurtful because a couple plays later, Baker throws a terrible pick in the end zone. Yep. He threw 2 really bad picks tonight. I think he's now 2-7 against Lamar. And, and listen, you get a sense out there as an offense when you're watching Lamar play and this team, which is, I think, as far as I can see right now, I think they're the best team in football right now. I really do. Their offense is literally unstoppable. I don't know how you stop that offense. I mean, they lost a couple games early when they were figuring out Derrick Henry. They figured it out. They're trying to, and I was talking to Zion McCollum about it tonight, and it's just like, I'm like, what was the game plan? How did they get beat? How did they beat you? And it's like, they had a lot of weapons. I mean, you got to load up to stop Derrick Henry. If Lamar pulls the ball, he's outside so quickly going the opposite direction. So you got to keep some staff over on that side for the backside run. And he can pull it. You got Rashad Bateman and 2 big tight ends running through the middle of the field. You got Jose Flower. I mean, geez, the Pete's. Yes. It's everywhere. Yes. I mean, they are. And, their defense, their pass defense is not great, but they hit you. I mean, they really did. They put, poor Kate Otten. He's going to be in the cold tub till probably Saturday morning. Yeah.
Hamilton hit him a couple of times with the shoulder pad, and it looked like
clean hits.
Looked like it was helmet to helmet, but it was definitely shoulder pad.
Thought he was wearing number 47 out there tonight. That guy.
I'm telling you, he was a heat-seeking missile, if you will. And speaking of heat, the Bucs started out pretty well in this game, right? 10-0. I mean, before you sit down and have your second plate, because I was hungry today and have my lunch.
The prime rib was fantastic, by the way. Oh,
fantastic. Whiskey, right? What was it? Whiskey flavor tonight. Real good with
we'll
the
need a few
mashed
shots
potatoes.
of that.
Yeah, we definitely did. But 7 plays, 60 yards. They go right down the field. I mean, when's the last time you seen a Bucs offense just do that on the first drive, and it seems like they've had a rhythm there. Only 4 minutes. You're up. It would have been 14-0, but you pick up a holding penalty with Chris Godwin. That is definitely a killer, and I don't know what happened.
That's a killer.
Yeah, that's a killer. Yes. Yeah, I don't know.
Now that was and I was like, Tristan, come on, I had to see this on the call. And he did have him grabbed inside and could have, if he lets go maybe a split second, he doesn't get the call. But that's just bad timing.
Right. But it's 10-0. The defense gets after Lamar Jackson. You shut him down. And then it seemed like in that second quarter, which, by the way, according to Greg Allman, 41-7 opposing
teams have outscored the Bucs in the last 2 games 41-7.
41-7.
And then to that point, the Bucs had outscored them 54-0.
Right.
So it's a weird, it's like the lightning second period for a while. It's just
exactly.
But that's a little bit of an anomaly. I mean, what we saw tonight is, first of all, a Buccaneers defense that needs to get better. Needs to get better against the pass. Zion got beat on a deep ball when he kind of peeked back at the quarterback, see if the ball was coming. And then when you're running with Bateman, even that little quick, that was all I needed. And damn, if Lamar didn't just put that ball right on the money. He's such a good passer. I mean, anybody who still thinks that guy can't throw the ball.
Insane.
Like you're living in
you're insane.
I don't know what world you're living in.
You didn't watch the game tonight because there were plenty of times where he had the opportunity to throw from the pocket, and he shows the arm strength. And just and then on top of it, he's going to kill you. Chris Braswell had an opportunity tonight to corral him. He's not able to make that play. Bateman makes a big time play. Jukes to Bucs defenders, gets a big time gain there. And honestly, for the majority of the night, they kept Henry in check. But eventually
2 big runs.
Yeah, big time run, 81 yards, where Antoine Winfield Jr. looks like he misses.
He overran it.
Yeah,
he overran it.
He over-pursued it. Did a Devin White there.
And that's the thing with Derrick Henry is, you got to come with some force. You can't slow play it. Like most running backs, you kind of slow play it, especially as a safety, make a sure tackle. I mean, if you try to do that to Derrick Henry, he's just going to steamroll your ass. Yeah. So you got to come with a little bit of aggression, and that's going to put you a little bit out of control. And if he makes that cut, you're screwed. And then he's up to 21.6 miles per hour. Hey, listen, Zion McCollum, I need to find out what he was clocked at coming across where he tackled, because he might have been a little faster than 21.6 by my eye. That dude was flying, and he runs a 4.3, so I want to see what he was running as well. But look, I'm not going to sit here and say that the Bucs defense needs to get better. There's no question about it. They've got to be better. 52 is hurting you right now in the middle of the defense. He's really hurting you. Andrews gets matched up with Whitehead one-on-one in the end zone. That's a mismatch, and he proved it and got open really easy. I mean, and that was a 4th down play, and the reason that they did that was because were wide freaking open, and the ball got knocked down. So they said, I think Todd Monken, just basically former Bucs OC, said, look, let's just run it back. I can get my tight ends open anytime in a mismatch, and with Lamar back there, we're going to go for it on 4th down. And that made it 34-10, and that was game over at that point.
Yeah, pretty much. It's pretty much over at that point. You kind of wonder, who's covering the tight end at the end of the night there. Is it Mark Andrews wide open, especially on that 4th down? It's disappointing. It's deflating because, again, I think there were some good things tonight that the Bucs couldn't capitalize.
And by the way, Tyke Smith got hurt too.
Yeah.
Tyke Smith got hurt early in the game. I think that was a bigger chess piece than we realized. Because early on, they confused him a little bit with the blitzes, and they got to him. Yaya got a big sack, then AW3 got a big sack, and that was about the only stop they had. Because the next, I think, 6 or 7 possessions, the Ravens scored.
Well, let's talk about
you got to get some stops.
Yeah, you do. Open phone lines, of course, 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. Let's talk about Baker Mayfield. Not the best night. Statistics otherwise, but those 2 critical interceptions, you talk about it, Mike Evans and that drop going down there. It's a 17-point. It's because it's 17-3 at that point, and unfortunately, he throws an interception on 2nd down. He's forcing it, and then the very next drive tries to force it again. Goes back to old Baker ways where he played with the Cleveland Browns. So that was disappointing, and we've seen that at times this year where he's trying to do too much, and I understand he's trying to put the team on his back.
Well, I think when you play Lamar, and as I mentioned earlier, he's 2-7 against Lamar now. I think you feel like you have to score every possession.
Right.
Nothing against your defense, but it just puts a lot of pressure on you. And I think, he got a little overzealous, especially with the end zone touchdown. And that was, again, Baltimore's really good, and they got some really good players. Humphrey, that was a veteran move. He had Kate Otten at the front of the end zone, but he was reading Baker's. Baker came across, extending the play, and he took a gamble. He thought he kind of read McMillan coming over. McMillan had his man beat, so Baker's watching McMillan, and it's the man. So he's thinking that Humphrey's going to stay on his man.
Yeah,
like that's what you expect as a quarterback. When guys break their own rules, that sometimes leads to an interception. So Humphrey took a gamble and he left his man, and because he was reading Baker's eyes that he was going over the top, and he fell back and got it. That's tip of the cap. That's a hell of a play. Now, the other interception was just a total force.
Yes.
That we've seen a couple times here from Baker. I don't know what he was seeing, but he forced it, and you just can't do that. Sometimes we hear, you got to get Mike involved. You got to get, targets for this guy and this guy and this guy. Yes, you do. When the defense allows you to. You can't force the ball. And when you force the ball, bad things happen. And that's what happened on that play. So 2 really critical turnovers. When your defense can't stop the other team and you're over, you do the math. It goes from 10-0 to 34-10 really quick.
Really quick. Let's go out to the phone lines. What's your name? Where are you calling from? You're on the Sports Web in collaboration with the JP Peterson Show, live here from Raymond James Stadium.
Hey, Peter. How you doing? This is Tristan.
What's going on, Tristan? What were your thoughts tonight on the game? I know that you talked about Baker Mayfield, and he kind of reverted back, as we were just talking about, to his old ways of forcing passes. I saw your post there, so I'm kind of thinking that's where you're going to go, right?
A little bit. Yeah, that's all the way I'm going to
go. He knows you too well.
Yes, I do.
Hey, man, Baker, listen, and I'll say it how it is, man. There's 2 things in which we should take away from this game that nobody seems to be pointing out. Baker played in division against a John Harbaugh coach team for 6 years. I would assume him to have some type of insight to how this defense will play and what he can do. And for some reason, Odell Beckham Jr., daddy kind of called it out. He said Baker is getting people killed out here. And tonight we've seen Baker get people killed and ruined a lot of money.
Well, Godwin's injury was not on Baker. Nor was Mike Evans. Let's just be clear about that.
Hold on now. If you look at the first pass, the touchdown pass to Mike Evans, that was an underthrown ball, and Mike Evans literally had to crawl back with his legs to get that ball. That was on Baker.
I disagree. He caught the ball. That was a perfectly thrown football in the back of the end zone.
That was not a perfectly thrown pass. I'll agree to disagree, but when you see the replays tomorrow, and I get y'all are at the game, so you don't have the luxury of seeing the screen, the back-to-back replays that we see watching it from home. So
let's be clear now. If it's an underthrown ball, you're talking about the difference between here and here, maybe a yard of a pass thrown 40 yards downfield. So. I mean, you got underthrows are important because you got to give your guy a chance to catch the ball, especially if it's Mike Evans. You don't want to throw it out of the back of the end zone. If it's one-on-one, you want to give your guy a chance. So sometimes it's going to be underthrown, and he's got to catch the football. I mean, if you're saying that's why Mike Evans got hurt, I completely disagree with you. Mike Evans got hurt because he's playing on a bad hamstring, and they decided to play him tonight and took a chance, and it bit him in the ass.
Yeah, it definitely bit him in the ass.
That's why Mike got hurt.
And it's been a lingering thing with Evans' career, so you're kind of, hoping it wasn't serious. You were hoping it wasn't torn, but who knows if he can play against Atlanta. And now you're looking at it, how the NFL has changed here, Tristan and JP, where you have 2 talented wide receivers who could be the best in the NFL. You may not have both of them versus a division rival for the NFC South.
Godwin's definitely out, and I would be shocked if Mike came back for this game. And again, as I said, you have a soft end of a year schedule. You got to let Mike get healthy right now with that hamstring. You got to find a way. And listen, this is what. Hey, listen, it's time for Jalen McMillan. It's time for you to step up, young man, and become a pro. There's too many catches that you should be making that you're not making. You've got to be more aggressive to the ball. You got to be stronger. You got to be better. Sterling Shepard, guess what? You're up. Marquez Callaway, by the way, who they just signed. 6'2", 208. Had over 600 yards of receiving with the Saints in 2021.
Yeah,
he ain't Mike Evans. I get it, but he can play. He can play.
And I tell you, another guy that has to step up. And you mentioned tonight doesn't always run his routes. He's not always. It doesn't seem like he has timing with Baker Mayfield. That's Trey Palmer. He has all this potential. He has the speed. Probably one of the most dynamic and speed receivers on this team. And yet you continue to see him, I don't know. It doesn't look like he's running his full route. He's stopping on it. The timing is not there. They better get this timing correct, because if they're not going to have Evans and Godwin, McMillan and Palmer have to step up. And you don't step up, it's going to be tough for Baker Mayfield.
I can see Rachaad White now moving into the slot a lot.
And I don't mind that.
I don't mind that at all.
That's what
I don't mind that at all, because you got two running backs that are better than him.
Agree.
That need to play and get more touches, especially in the run game. Down 24 points in the fourth quarter, you're handing the ball off to Rachaad White. What the F are we doing?
3 yards in a cloud of dust.
My God,
he's losing 1 yard.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
If
you're going to run the ball in that situation, give it to a guy who can take it to the house.
Yeah.
That's a direct correlation to the lack of trust in Baker. Listen,
Baker Mayfield's leading the league in quarterback rating. What are you talking about, bro? Why are you all over Baker Mayfield? This is not Baker Mayfield from the Cleveland Browns. Newsflash, bro. It's not. The dude. No. What do you think? Look at the number. He was leading the league in touchdown passes coming into this week. He was second in quarterback rating. You think that's the same Baker Mayfield from Cleveland?
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I think we'll agree to disagree again.
So he threw three interceptions in the second quarter against New England, right?
Yes, and 2 of them weren't his fault.
New Orleans, yes.
Regardless, but those 3 interceptions are on Baker. At the end of the day, that ride on his stat line, right?
All right.
I mean, 2 of them are not on
Just
him.
Yes or no, please. Just a yes or no. Those are on his stat line,
yeah, they're
right?
on the stat line. Sure. Yes.
Okay, so he had 2 interceptions in the first 2 quarters in today's football game.
Both
So that's
of them
5
on him.
interceptions in 5 quarters, correct?
Both of them on him.
Regardless if that's Baker's fault, that's on his stat line, right?
That's right.
Just
so
like
are the 15 touchdowns. So are the 15 touchdowns that lead the league. So is the 109 quarterback rating that was leading the league or second in the league. Those are stats too.
We can't say that this guy is like tonight. If you can't say that he was Pat Stanton tonight, he damn near got Cade Otton killed tonight.
That he did. You didn't. You mentioned the other 2.
Man.
Cade Otton, he almost got killed. You are correct on that. I will definitely agree with you.
He's like, Cade Otton needs to file a lawsuit on this man for reckless endangerment. Like, do you see what Cade Otton had to do to catch a pass tonight?
Yeah, hey, welcome to the NFL, playing tight end, bro.
Tristan, thanks a lot.
Oh, come on, now. That's not right. That's not. Mark Andrews did not have to get his head blown off like Roquan Smith and Cade.
Well, that's
Otton
because Buck
friends
defenders
right
weren't close enough to hit him. For God's sakes, they weren't even. It wasn't on the quarterback.
JP, we're up 10-0. Like, if we don't have those turnovers, then a lot of
they were killers. Listen, I'm not saying they were killers tonight, but you want to tell me that he's the same Baker from the Cleveland days? Come on, man. That ain't right.
Come on now, Tristan. You're better than that, Tristan. Come on.
I'd say it's a much better Baker.
Yes.
You know it, and everybody knows it.
Listen, the thing about Baker and the one of the fantastical things in the situation he's in this year is, fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, this team goes as far as Baker Mayfield takes them.
Fair.
Yeah,
that's a fair
pretty
point.
much every team in the league, by the way.
No, it's not. No, it's not. We just seen the Steelers overcome Justin Fields throwing for 113 yards a game.
Okay,
and his stats look good, but like, he couldn't pass. A wide receiver had 1 touchdown throughout the league, throughout the season so far, to a wide receiver on a passing touchdown. Like, it can look good on the stats, but that doesn't mean that equivocates.
So you'd rather have Justin Fields than Baker Mayfield?
I'm not saying that.
You'd rather have Russell Wilson than Baker Mayfield?
I think what he's saying is basically
I would definitely have Russ debate.
Yeah, your defense. Listen, your defense has to play a lot better. You can't give up over 500 yards of total offense to the opposing team. You can't lose containment on Lamar Jackson. You can't allow Derrick Henry to go for 81 yards and go for over 100 yards. By the way, last runner to do that, individual runner, 2012, all the way back to 2012, where a Bucs defense gives up that much rushing yardage to Michael Turner. So, this defense.
The burner.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The burner.
Fair. I'll give you that. Now allow me a little pushback, if I may.
A little bit.
Okay.
And then we got to run here.
First
Yes.
half,
Mm-hmm.
we put up points. We were putting up points, and the only way the Ravens defense stopped us was because of the turnovers.
That's right.
Can we agree on that?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Too bad Baker Mayfield picks. We agree on that.
Tristan.
Okay. So the second thing,
yes.
Allow me one thing, Peter, if I may.
All right.
Where is our money spent on this team? The majority of our money spent on this team. I get it. Everybody says this about the defense, but what side of the ball is the majority of our money spent on?
Offense.
So what we're saying, the defense needs to do that, but a team literally can't stop you until you turn the ball over. And then after that, it's downhill because the guy gets gunshot and doesn't want to make a mistake.
All right.
It's something there to that.
It's on Baker.
I mean, some of it's on Baker, but again, it's also
Baker didn't give up 509 yards.
He didn't give up, and you have to make stops. At the end of the day, you also have to have more consistent pass rush. It can't be just in the first quarter. It has to be the entire game. And again, you know how tough it is.
Todd Monken called a great game.
Tristan,
I thought Todd,
thanks a lot for the call,
thanks,
man.
Tristan. Appreciate you, buddy.
Yes.
Sorry we disagree.
Absolutely. It's okay. Over the phone line, by the way. Yes.
Listen, I thought Todd Monken called a brilliant game. That Justin Hill screen touchdown, 3rd and long. I mean, we come off the edge with the blitz, and he throws it right over the top. The lineman did a great job getting out. Your entire offensive line is out. The Bucs defensive line got fooled on that play. They got over-aggressive. They didn't read screen at all. Linebackers were gone, and that's a great call.
Yeah.
Great call by Tom Monken. I thought he really mixed it up a lot. That's so many weapons. They just do. They're a tough out offensively. There's not many teams that are going to stop these guys.
No, it's going to be tough, and we talked about it. Again, you've got to stop Henry. You got to contain him, and then you also got to stop Jackson. And not only do you got to stop Jackson from getting out of the pocket because he can make plays, but also you got to stop him with his feet, and he's tough on that too. And even with Zay Flowers going out tonight, they showed you how much
he came back and played, but he
wasn't the same.
No,
wasn't the same.
They
player.
They were throwing it to Rashad.
Yeah.
And I think defensively, Todd Bowles, and I asked him this afterwards. I say, what was the game plan and how did they beat it?
Yeah.
And he didn't really give me much on that, except to say, they've got a lot of different weapons, and it's hard to contain them. And I mean, that's just obvious. That's not excuses. It is what it is. I think what their game plan was tonight is to take chances.
Yeah.
Blitz them, and if you get them, good. If you don't, okay, you got to outscore them. The only way you're beating the Ravens is in a shootout. And I've said that all week on the show. You got to beat them with the shootout. Their pass defense is not great. You got to score when you can score. Listen, Mike Evans catches that ball, and then you don't have the pick in the corner. Godwin has a touchdown pass taken off the board for a Wirfs. We only get 3 out of that. You can't beat them that way. No. You've got to match them touchdown for touchdown. Hopefully get a couple of turnovers yourself and try to beat them that way. That's the only way I think they're going to get beat this year. Is somebody's going to outscore them and get a couple of turnovers.
Or if they beat themselves, which you saw this year against Kansas City, they beat themselves. And good teams don't beat themselves. The Bucs tonight beat themselves, and that's the difference in this game, 41-31. A lot more other than just the turnovers. Open phone lines if you want to call up here, 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. You also saw the Ravens get after Baker Mayfield. I get it. He can escape, but there were times tonight he couldn't go anywhere. There was nobody getting enough separation. You just couldn't find anybody. You just again, tip your hat to the Ravens and that defensive scheme because to the Bucs' credit, coming into it, the Ravens were number 1 against the run, and I believe the Bucs were over 100 yards at the end of the day.
They got 125 yards rushing, I believe.
Yeah.
And they were running the ball in the first half for like 5.5 a clip, which against this Ravens defense, it came in, I think, number 3 in the league against the run. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah, it is. It is. You want to go out to the comments here really quick? Let's do that. Let's see if we got – I know there's a lot of people out here. KR says, unreal game. Shaking my head, Coach Bowles. needs to be talked to because that was unacceptable.
Yep.
Alex says that Todd Bowl. Okay, I won't go with that. Wow. Cornell says, "What's up? What's up with you?" Sean says,
Try
we
to
lost
keep it clean, boys.
more than just a game tonight. I mean, I think that's the big story from this game. You're okay with the one game because, again, it's a long season, right? In the National Football League, it's a week-by-week league. You're impressed by what the Bucs were able to do versus the New Orleans Saints, and you see the Saints are 2-5. It doesn't discount it because a road win, divisional win is huge. Then you come into this game with the momentum. You're a little bit banged up, and now you're a lot banged up, and a lot of guys got to step up, and Atlanta's not – they're going to be upset because they just come off a loss versus the Seattle Seahawks. So – disappointing, but it's a week-by-week league, and you're going to get beat if you don't play your game. And, of course, if you turn over the ball, if you give a good team, a great team like the Baltimore Ravens second opportunities, they're going to make you pay, and they made you pay tonight.
I don't know who's out there, but Bowles was asked about, with the trade deadline coming up, would you look at going out and getting try to find a number one receiver? We just saw Devontae Adams move. We saw Amari Cooper moved. I don't know off the top of my head.
Mike
who's
Williams,
out there.
he could be out of there with the Jets because Devontae Adams, is that a number one guy? Guy can't stay healthy, but for the short term, is that somebody you talk?
I'll say Garrett Wilson.
Yeah. Well, what did you take Garrett Wilson? What would you give up for Garrett Wilson? Well, it's a disaster right now with the Jets and Aaron Rodgers.
That's not going to happen.
No, it's probably not going to happen. It's disappointing.
But I think if you're Jason Light,
right.
There are some seasons to go for it and some seasons not to. This is a season to go for it. If you could find somebody out there, I mean, like I said, Devontae Adams just got moved. He's as good as it gets in this league.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else out there that needs to get paid? Although, I don't want to bring somebody in here with the idea that we're, renegotiating his contract because we're not. Although Chris Godwin, and this is what really sucks. This is what really sucks. Chris Godwin's contract is up.
Yep.
Another major serious injury for him. So, this is the brutal part of the nature of this game. And this is why guys, want contract extensions because it's not for long in this league.
Yep.
And
it's all about security.
And I was walking into the press conference and they pulled the card up and got Chris off, and there was just, it's so sad to watch, just a grown ass man like that and three other men just picking him up, trying to get him off the cart and get him to where he needs to be. And I'm sure they'll probably take him in an ambulance or some type of transportation he's probably going to have surgery tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's gruesome. It's gruesome to watch. It sucks in this business. I mean,
you got the card out here
30 yards from where 20 yards from where we are right now. That could be the mark where the Bucs season, this very promising season, came to an end.
Yeah. I mean,
I hate to be a downer. It just sucks because we're just sitting there talking about it on the show this morning. Like, this team's really good, and if they stay healthy, they have a chance to go to the Super Bowl. They do.
Yes.
They did.
Yeah.
They do. They did. I mean, it is what it is. When you lose guys like this that are humongous difference makers. Look, every team in this league has about 30 or 35 guys on their team. They're just guys, right? Yep. They're just guys. You have to have them. They're the pluggers. And then there's difference makers in this league. And each team, if you've got a really good team, you got 5 or 6 of them that are just difference makers that change the game. And Chris Godwin is clearly one of those guys. Yeah. Mike Evans is clearly one of those guys. Tyke Smith is clearly one of those guys. All 3 of them went down. Tyke's got a concussion, so we don't know how long that's going to be. Typically in this league, it's at least a week. So you roll into Atlanta down 3 difference makers. And it happens to Atlanta. It happens to every team in this league. Your depth is tested. So now your coaching comes in. How do you hide your injuries and take advantage of the other team's injuries? This is what this league is all about. Finding the weaknesses and relentlessly pounding them. And that's what the Falcons are going to do to the Bucs, and that's what the Bucs have to find a way to do to the Falcons next week.
And it's about the matchups at the end of the day. You lose a Tyke Smith, he's a chess piece to you because he can do so many things. He can cover, and he's causing fumbles, and he's getting interceptions, and he can cover, and he's wise beyond his years. And you're talking to this kid, a couple months ago in training camp, how he wants to emulate Antoine Winfield Jr. He looks like Antoine Winfield Jr. So when you miss him, you're already missing Jamel Dean. And I get it. Dean is, very inconsistent. He's not great when it comes to zone coverage, but that's still a missing piece, and you're playing younger guys. So you have to compensate for that. And as well as anybody else that an offensive coordinator that's coming in here, like the Falcons with Kirk Cousins, who knows that they've had success. How many yards did Kirk Cousins throw against that defense when they were healthy to a certain degree? So guys got to step up. It's going to be a tough matchup. Let's talk about some of the positives, because I know we're talking about injuries.
I think what we have to do at this point is say, and I think the fans would ask this question. Sure. How does this become a successful season now? Where does this go? Like, how do they get this back? And I asked Graham Barton about that and also Luke Gedeke. I said, how important does the run game become now? Yeah. And they're like, really important. Like we've been running the football well, and they've been running the football really well. So how does this look? Well, for me, Bucky Irving and Rashad White, I would start employing more as a receiver because he's so good, right? As a receiver,
Sean Tucker is a runner.
Sean Tucker and Bucky Irving become your explosive backs. So you have an explosive run game, yeah, and then you have a pass game that features Cade Otton, right? Cade Otton's a good player. He had 100 yards tonight.
Yes, he did.
I don't remember. This may be his first 100 yards.
Not a lot of drops.
Not a lot of drops. He had 11. I think 11 targets tonight. Yeah. So he played really, really well. He's going to have to play really, really well.
He's going to be sore in the morning, by the way.
Jalen McMillan's going to have to step up. Sterling Shepard's going to have to step up. Trey Palmer is going to have to step up. I mean, these guys have great speed. Palmer's a 4.3 guy. Jalen McMillan's a good speed guy. Marquez Callaway, I think, is going to have to become part of this offense really quickly. And I would not be shocked if they went out and got somebody. I think right now Jason Light is looking for a draft partner. And if it takes giving up compensation for next year, depending on who it is, what their contract situation is, I think you got to make that move because you have a soft schedule at the end of the year. You have a chance to win this division and get into the playoffs still. Even with these guys down, you still do. I think there's a pathway for that. Does Godwin come back late in the season? We're 6 to 8 weeks for a broken bone. Is this a dislocated ankle? How many ligaments are torn? That's what's, if they're torn ligaments, he's done. Yeah, he's done. And likely there probably are. I mean, we're speculating. I hate to do that, but so I don't know. I wouldn't count on Godwin coming back. Does Mike Evans come back? Yeah, I think Mike Evans comes back. Sure. I think, how bad is it? It just depends. Did he really, really tear it tonight? I don't know. It looked pretty bad, but he did walk off on his own power. So is he back in 6 weeks? And you make the playoffs, you get into playoffs, and you got Mike Evans and these other guys have emerged now in a good running game. And this defense has got to get better.
They have to.
I mean, they gave up how many 500 yards passing to Cousins? Yeah. Another 500. That ain't getting it done. No. I mean, this Todd Bowles defense, where you at? That was not good, and it's got to get better.
We talked about this also, and you saw this, and what you're watching is the Sports Web in collaboration with the JP Peterson Show. I'm Peter Blake, along with JP Peterson here. We talked about watching the coverages, and it seemed like going back to Mike Smith, you're playing 10 to 15 yards, and I understand you want to be conservative. I understand you have injuries, but if you're going to do that, and the guy catches the ball on a screen, you got to come up and stick. You got to come up and tackle.
Yeah, you got to be
and
aggressive.
If you don't do that, then you're just it sets up Justin Tucker tonight. You talked about it, like. You have him in a situation where he goes to the 52-yarder, but if you're able to stop that 15-yard,
I didn't like that at all. You just gave him 15 yards and allowed Tucker to kick a field goal. I mean, you're playing so soft and you don't come up. That was a gift.
Kills
That's
you.
a gift. 3
that
points.
That has killed this Bucs defense.
You saw the Ravens, and when they play a really aggressive zone defense. I mean, those guys, when the ball is thrown or a guy's in your area, they are on your ass. Whereas the Bucs play a very soft zone defense. I just don't think they play it very well. Yeah, they need to be better. And all these things have to get better. It's funny how things can change in just one game, man. You lose a game, you think you're never going to win again. Yeah, you win a few games in a row, you think you're never going to lose. But it's a very humbling league.
Yeah, it is a very humbling league, and we'll see what happens with Mike Evans. Chris Godwin situation doesn't necessarily look good. But it falls also on your defensive leaders. It falls on Vita Vea. It falls on Yaya Diaby and Kalijah Kancey. I don't know what it is besides the tackling. What is it, in your opinion, where this defense is giving up so many yards? Is it lack of pass rush? Is it the linebacking situation there? Is it the corners? Not because we saw Zion McCollum. We saw him nearly, have a touchdown the night. They call him back there, on a fumble. Looks like he's going to score. We've seen him play well at a Pro Bowl level. And then we see him again get his hand caught in the cookie jar tonight, looking at the quarterback, getting beat on that touchdown by Bateman.
Look, he's still young.
Yeah.
Let's not forget, we wanted to make him an all-pro, earlier this week and last interception last week. He's still very young.
Yeah.
And he's got Rashad Bateman. He's in good phase with him. And then he turns to find the ball thinking that Bateman's going to the corner, and he kind of breaks his route off, going more straight up the field. And when you're running with a guy like Bateman and you just turn back to the quarterback for a second,
yeah,
you're gonna you lose just a half a stride, and it's a perfect ball. Yeah. I mean, he throws a perfect ball from the 40-yard line to the end zone. I mean, it's Lamar Jackson.
Yeah,
he's good.
Five touchdowns tonight by Lamar Jackson.
Easy.
That's the reason why.
Easy
and
5 touchdowns.
Anybody who says this man can't throw from the pocket, turn on the film and watch this. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we're running late here. Any final thoughts? Because we're probably just going to wrap it up here.
Well, listen, it's kind of what I just said. If you're Todd Bowles now, you got to reinvent your team in some ways. You were, and that's the biggest part of this that hurts, is this team was very Evans and Godwin dependent. This is, and that's not a knock. I mean, these are your two of your best players. And Baker Mayfield is a very accurate quarterback who's been very accurate and made a lot of good decisions tonight. He wasn't as good. He felt the pressure. I thought he tried to do too much. So live and learn. Now they've got to reestablish themselves that this team can run the football.
Yeah.
This team can now run the football. Thank God. I mean, where would they be if they were still stuck in the Rashad White 1.6 yards per carry? So they've got a couple of guys they know now that can run the football. That's great.
Yeah.
And now, it's just plain and simple. These young receivers got to grow the F up. And I think, frankly, I got to look at Jason Light and say, go get somebody.
Yeah.
Go get somebody. Go find somebody who can play that position. And it's worth it. And if I got to give up some serious draft compensation, I can keep that player, then I do it. It's there are times to make bold moves and times to sit back and say maybe this isn't the season. I think with the schedule that's ahead, you got to give yourself a chance. And if you can go out and find somebody, and again, there's going to be teams that are falling out of it that have number one receivers, that are just going to be, that are going to be available.
Well, the San Francisco 49ers, they also lost one of their main receivers tonight, Brandon Ayuk. He went out for the year.
Yesterday,
and then also Deebo Samuel is in the hospital with pneumonia, damage to his lungs. So the whole National Football League, especially the NFC, is wide open, and we've seen injuries hurt teams. San Francisco, Tampa Bay, Detroit with Aiden Hutchinson. So you just never know. Don't give up, Bucs fans. It is a disappointing night, not only the loss, but most likely the loss of Chris Godwin for the year.
I know Antonio Brown's been on the campaign trail. Maybe we can
Le'Veon Bell's with them too. You want both of them?
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
All right.
I'm kidding.
All right.
Yeah,
well, tune into the JP Peterson Show tomorrow from 10 to 12. What do you got cooking for him?
We will hoping to have Scott Reynolds on from the Pewter Report tomorrow. We'll see how their schedule goes. TJ Reeves usually joins us on Tuesday.
Yes.
And I think Scott Hamilton, college football expert, will be joining us as well at 11 o'clock. Not the driver, but the college football expert will be joining. So we'll have plenty of football to talk tomorrow. Obviously, Bucs centric. You'll hear all the sound that we got from the guys tonight. And got to move on. It's a lot of season left, bro.
Yeah.
A lot of season left.
Yeah.
You're 4-3. You win next week. And I think even without Godwin and Evans, you can find a way to beat the Falcons here. There's ways to do this. You got to have to play a hell of a lot better defense than you played the first time. You just got to man up and team up and just find a way to win this game. And then you're sitting at 6-4, right? Or 5-3.
5-3.
5-3.
Yeah.
And again, you have the tail end of the season where you got Carolina twice. You got the Saints, a Dallas team that will have quit. The Giants are in there, a terrible Giants team. So you got a lot of opportunities to win games. So This is far from a lost season. Figure it out. This is where your coaching staff really has to shine. And again, we're going to dwell on these receivers, but this defense has got to be fixed.
Yeah, they got to be fixed. It's not a Todd Bowles defense. The staple of the defense is stop the run. They weren't able to do that tonight. And again, the staple is to stop the passing game. And once again, Lamar Jackson goes off for 5 touchdowns. The Ravens themselves over 500 yards of offense. With the great JP Peterson, I'm Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. Tune in to the JP Peterson Show and the Sports Web. Bucs lose to the Ravens 41-31 to fall to 4-3. Atlanta Falcons next. We'll see you next time here on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.